Welcome to the BMI podcast, guys.
Welcome.
Got Mikey back in the studio, and we're going to be talking about Hyrox and I guess the weekend that you went and watched. What was it, the Nationals or Auckland? What was it?
It was just the Auckland event or Auckland race.
Auckland Hyrox.
I think it was the first. Yeah, it was the first one they had in New Zealand. So Hyrox is like a business, kind of take their race worldwide. And I think there might be like an Australia, New Zealand like affiliate or event promoter. And for a long time, like they had a lot in Australia, and they were doing so well, and they had so many like New Zealand competitors go over that they ended up bringing one here. So Auckland was the first one, which I think was the start of Feb.
Yep,
first weekend of Feb.
Yeah. Well, because I actually watched a podcast of the guy who started.
Oh
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen.
Yeah,
that
I saw
one.
part of that.
Yeah, the one where he was sitting down with those English guys.
I think so.
Yeah, very interesting because he's German. German fella. Started it up like it's a cool, I guess, what do you call it, founder story.
Yep.
How he was just dabbling in a whole bunch of other stuff, and then he sort of, him and his business partner, they were just going like, there needs to be something else, like there's Crossfit, like because they're realistically they're direct competitors, but
pretty much
they can transition, but like only certain probably certain athletes can transition over, right?
Yeah, I mean it's I think so. It was interesting at the time. So I guess for those who don't know what Hyrox is, it's essentially a running race with fitness exercises dabbled in between. So it's 8 1-kilometer runs, and in between each of those kilometer runs is an exercise. So ski erg, rowing erg, sled push, sled pull, lunge, farmer's carry, wobbles. So there's 8 runs, 8 different stations, and you undulate or alternate between a run and an exercise. And essentially it's just a race from the start to the finish who can get it done the fastest. And there's a set weight. So there's a weight for male category, there's a weight for female category, and then I think they divide that into open and pro. So open is a little bit lighter, and pro is the weight that the guys making money out of this now will be using. And so that's kind of like, if you want to be competitive, that's where it's at. If you want to just do it as like this is your first time getting into it, or
you're just having a crack at it. You know, it's a spectator's sport, and it's also a community type sport, right? Like everyone sort of has a go.
Yes, correct.
So then they all race at the same time.
Yep. So it's very similar to how like marathons and half marathons and events like that are set up, and they'll just run them in waves. So instead of saying CrossFit will have a certain time for certain workouts. So everyone will do this workout at this time, and then they'll run through heats. A couple of hours later, they'll do another workout, then everyone does that workout. Whereas this is just one long race, very similar to a marathon. So depending,
and then the different categories at different times of the day.
And it's just a rolling start. So just a gun start, every 15 minutes or so, gun goes off and you go. And so
do they have a cap on that? Like, surely they have to have a cap on it because they have to fit in like men's, women's,
like a
mixed.
time cap.
Yeah.
Not really. Like it's kind of go for gold, but they've set it up in a way so that individual typically is first. Doubles is second, and relays is last, and or they tend to have the faster people towards the end. So you've essentially got the whole day. So if you've started at like, I don't know, let's say your kickoff time is 10 in the morning or 12 o'clock midday, you've essentially got until the event finishes at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night to finish the race. So even when I was there, like there was a few people that
were just having first cracks at
cracks, and they were there from the morning. So they had like the singles go in the morning. We missed that, and we were there around midday, but there were still people doing singles when we got there. So that was probably at least 2 hours. And they were still going. And I mean, essentially because they have the whole afternoon to do it, you can kind of stay there the whole time if you wanted to. And because the relay will be done quickly, that's always done last. So the relay is always just the last event, and that gets done quite quickly.
Is that one more popular, or what was it like? Was the relay more?
So the female doubles actually sold out.
Oh wow!
That one was the most popular one. I think. I'm not 100% sure on how popular the relay is, but relay will go one of two ways. It'll either be a very easy entrance. So I find the relay and the doubles is kind of like anyone can enter.
Yeah.
Because technically you only have to, in the relay, you only have to do 2 exercises and 2 runs. So that's 2K run and just pick whatever exercise you're strongest in, times 2. And the double is you can kind of just take a break. So you and your partner
you're just tapping in.
Pretty much. Everyone does you both do the run at the same time, but you kind of tag in and tagging out as you need to get the exercise part of it done.
Yeah.
So again, it's a little bit more manageable. So either, in the relay you'll have that, or you'll have the opposite end where you'll just have the quick people just fucking blast it.
Yeah. I've watched quite a few actually. Yeah. I quite enjoy it because I like watching CrossFit. Like, I love watching the CrossFit games.
Yep.
And it's awesome to see like those athletes doing all that different kind of stuff. But I do kind of like the Hyrox.
Yep.
And you can sort of see how tactics can come into it with the doubles.
Yes, definitely.
Like there's definitely some of them, they have strong points.
Correct.
Like you probably, like yourself, you'll probably be pretty damn good at the broad jump or something like that, because you guys are shorter and
100%.
And then just keep going. And I've seen the short athletes when they've got
tend to smash
them.
them.
And then they've got the taller ones doing the wall balls and
and so you can like it, and I think I correlate it to like the hucks. Like you can have any walk of life doing the hucks at any time, given time that you go. So you could have someone there like dressed up in blooming firefighter suit, carrying bloody 30 kg
and sandbags
and all that, just like smashing it. You have the quick people, like they've done it twice by the time you're halfway up. And then you've got the people that this is the only exercise they've ever done in their life and they're struggling before they even get to that halfway turnaround point. It's just like Hyrox was actually very similar in that respect, where CrossFit's got a skill component. So to do CrossFit, you have to have an entry-level skill. So you have to know how to pull up. You have to know how to do a muscle up. You have to know how to snatch, or you have to know how to clean and jerk. If you don't know those exercises,
you've got no chance.
You're not doing CrossFit. Whereas Hyrox, all of the movements is pretty entry-level. So like a ski erg, you literally just have to pick the ski up,
pull the rope down.
Pull the rope down. Like probably the most technical component would be the wall ball, and that's because you actually have to like have a certain depth
and hit a
target. But again, at the same time,
the rules, throwing the ball out at the wall.
Correct. And like the rules are pretty simple: drop down below parallel, hit the target. If you miss the target, no rep. And so it's pretty clear, black and white. And so it just allows for anyone to partake. And I think the boom of like group fitness classes, so like F45 and BFT, FitStop and those types of gyms, with the boom of that over recent years, it's kind of given them a competitive outlet.
Yeah, I guess it's almost like their nationals sort of thing.
Pretty much,
right?
Like,
their national sport sort of,
It was interesting because I work with a lot of people that go to those gyms at work, and inherently there was always this barrier, and so probably a couple of years ago, I'd often find like people would get what they needed to out of those classes, but then they were kind of
nowhere to implement it.
Yeah, exactly, and so they were naturally losing members to go to the likes of CrossFit because at that point CrossFit was a natural progression. It was like, well, there's nowhere for me to compete. And I've kind of lost the weight, or I've got the fitness that I've initially wanted to. Now what? Because we always want to strive for a little bit more. And so they've achieved all those goals, and now they're kind of just like, I'm floating.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, because it can, like, that's what a lot of them start off with, an initial, I want to just lose some weight, or I want to just get a bit healthier. But then when you start to get the ball rolling and you get that momentum, you're like, oh shit, well, maybe I actually can do more than I think, and then I guess that is giving them that outlet that they can go and actually
and
train towards as well. That's something like having a target is always better to stay on track, right? If you've got somewhere, a goal or destination.
And especially once you've achieved whatever it is that you were wanting to achieve beforehand. And so, CrossFit was that natural progression for them. So, and I remember talking to a couple of the owners at the time. Not that this had absolutely any influence on Hyrox coming into play, but I remember talking to a couple of the owners at the time, and it was just like, you guys need some kind of competition outlet.
Mm.
Like you'll otherwise, or it's either that or it's accepting that you're kind of playing the city fitness game.
Yeah.
In that you really just want to have members coming in your door, and you know that they'll kind of leave you once they get to a certain threshold.
Yeah.
So they get X amount of competency.
Yeah.
You'll naturally lose them to CrossFit. And so the city fitness business model, they accept that.
Yeah.
They're just like, all I'm worried about is getting people in the door. I don't particularly care how long they stay for. Because they know that they've got the prices, they've got the business model to match getting people in the door, enough people through the door.
Yeah.
So that's their business model.
Yeah, high churn.
Pretty much. I was like, you guys either need to accept that and do something to like get more people coming through the door, so lower the prices, etc. Because it's a premium product.
Yeah.
To lower the prices to allow for more of that turnover, or there needs to be your version of CrossFit.
Yeah, because we did a few body fit events for them.
Yes,
so like they started doing their own little, I guess it's like a mini Hyrox almost.
Yes.
Like it was quite funny because that started taking off at the same time we were doing these, and I was like, oh yeah, like it looks really similar to that stuff that I've seen online.
Yes.
But like it was good, like that was really good for them, and they got all of their different branches, and then they had an internal competition, which I thought was a really good idea.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah, hard. And then I think BFT potentially overseas, whether or not that was America, I think got involved as like a sponsor right within Hyrox.
Oh yeah.
And so then it started to become a little bit more popular as a competition outlet for BFT in particular, and I think
because they're
F45
majority Aussie is like BFT was.
I'm pretty sure it's worldwide, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, they're worldwide, but I think they're like
major.
They're a lot larger in Australia, I believe.
Right.
Yeah,
probably. I think now America, being I think F45 is America.
Yep.
They've now got the main sponsor right in Hyrox, or one of the main sponsoring rights in Hyrox. But I think anyone can associate. So similar to CrossFit, any gym can affiliate as a Hyrox gym, just to say like, hey, you provide Hyrox classes.
It's crazy. Like I watched the podcast with the owner, and man, he is making so much money off just having like the affiliates. So like he gives them the right to advertise their name, and then they also give them access to their classes, so that their programs that they can train, and all of the programs coming from their professional athletes as well, and selling the Hyrox gear, and it's just, oh man,
it's blown up.
Yeah,
it's blown up.
I think he's probably it'll be near making $1 billion a year almost. He said I think it was something like 400 or 500 mil just for the races, and then it's an amazing business model as well, because he also not only charges $300 per athlete or per person
per head,
to race
per category.
Yeah, per category.
And that's the thing to consider, right? Like if you do a singles or a doubles and a relay, you're paying that times 2.
Yeah, and then he also has a media package.
Yeah.
So then he sells you, because there's a lot of influencers that, like, now you've got the social media world. There's a lot of influencers that are wanting to do it, but they do top tier media packages. So I think it was something like another $280 for the media package. I'm probably getting the figures wrong or whatever they are, but I remember him like explaining them, and I was doing the math in my head because he was telling me how many competitors he had, and then even the host was just going, "Hold on a second, you're telling me you're upwards of 200 million already, and then that's just on entries?" And he's like, "Yes," and then you haven't even got sponsorships, you haven't even got any of these other avenues that they're allowing, and then just having what do you call it? We were talking about before in the gyms where you can be an affiliate, and then that was another huge parcel for him, and like it's crazy, and for him to scale that, it's tough, man. Like and they've done really well because they have like a minimum standard for where they have the races as well, and which is what I find like something that you have to do if you're going to be charging that premium product.
100%.
Because he said he could have he sold some of the regions so that he could expand it first, and now he's buying them back.
Yeah, right.
Because now he knows how to make it super profitable.
Yep.
So then, and he's got his own way that he can implement,
streamline that process.
streamline that process and set up the buildings and all of that.
I think that's kind of a part of the hype anyway, is that technically you could do it almost anywhere in the world and you're getting something similar. Now, on the ground level, there is a little bit of difference, just granted based on the actual arena that you're in. Like New Zealand was outside. So the exercises were performed inside, but the run was outside. And there's always going to be a slight variance just even based on the amount of Ks that you do. So even if you do like a 5K race or a 10K race or a marathon, it's never exact. So it's never just 5K race. It's never 42.2. Yeah, there's always
variables.
Yeah, it'll be like 42 or it'll be 42.5 or 43 or something like that. And it's around the ballpark.
Yeah.
Similar with Hyrox, like depending on the actual event structure will dictate. Like the race will be slightly different depending where you go, but it's close enough. Like you've got the same machines, you've got the same sleds, you've got the same weights, just anywhere you go in the world.
Yeah.
And so it's comparable. Now you've got this worldwide thing where I can compete against someone in Asia or Europe or America. We're doing the same race, and of course we like competition. Like, who's the best? Where do you stack up? And so you put that out and people can obviously see where they are in both age group and category. You can compete with yourself, and if you do multiple, you can see where your progressions lie. Like, it's massive business.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, and apparently, like the woman is probably one of the. And it's funny that you say that they sold out the women's one.
Yep.
Whereas, to be honest, like even the owner was saying, surprisingly, they're pretty much on par versus in virtually all other sports. There's maybe a 65-35 component, like split between women and men, but they got a lot of women on board. And he even said he does no advertising, which that's crazy. That he's done no paid advertising for it. It's all been through just organic social media then getting on influencers and like, which is crazy. And the guys, when they were interviewing him, it's just like, how are you turning over 250 mil a year? Like, that's your last 4 years. Like, it's probably not even this current year that's ahead,
which will be even bigger now. Well, I mean, I still remember when I did Queenstown Marathon, and I was like, before that, I was like, there's no way I'm paying to run. Like, I'm not going to pay to run. What the
I know.
heck? But it's like, it's in doing that, it forces you to commit to the process. And you're like, fuck, now it's real. Like, if I didn't commit that way, I would never have done it. But it's like, as soon as I made that payment, I was like, fuck, I'm in. I'm doing it. And
book the flights and
you see yourself progress every week. And so it's like, oh, my fitness is getting better. I'm running further. And like, that one little payment, that one little commitment actually ended up catalyzing a whole host of different changes and progressions that you've made throughout that whole journey. Hyrox is exactly the same, especially if you're into like fitness and like hybrid training being so popular now. It's that same thing. It's that, okay, now I'm not just paying my gym membership. I've got something to train for. And now you're noticing progression because it's probably the first time that you've actually trained for something rather than just training.
I definitely thought the same as well. Like I was like, I'm never gonna pay to run. Like you can just go out and run for free. And that's why I said when I was training before I injured myself, I was like, I'm just gonna do my own half marathon. But I did have a thought in my head. I was like, actually, I would be interested in doing a half marathon or paying to run. Because I remember doing a coffee cart. We went to the one out Carapera, and I was like, man, this is nice. And then like everyone was in good spirits, and it's a fun day. And you know, if you take away the seriousness, sure, there's going to be that 5% that are there just to get their PB or whatnot.
For sure.
But majority of the people there are there to just actually enjoy the sport of running. And I think for the Hyrox, that's what I think is. That's what the winning recipe is for them.
That's exactly what it was like. Like I remember, for me, because I'd obviously been involved with or having done a running event, and I've been to a few CrossFit comps. I found it was a hybrid of the two. So in CrossFit, most CrossFit comps, you don't have the sheer amount of people that you would at a running event. So other than the CrossFit Games or those massive events like that, you're not going to have the big turnover that you would say at a marathon.
Yeah.
Because again, at a marathon, it's mostly participants, not spectators. So there's always a crap ton of participants kind of turning up. But because it's such a large event, those people are dispersed.
Yeah.
So it's always in a huge field, and then again, it's like a gun show, kind of just kicking off the start line.
Yeah.
So those people are dispersed, whereas CrossFit, there's a small amount of people, or smaller amount of people, but everyone's in one location because everyone's doing one workout at a time. Hyrox was the combination of the two. It was the sheer amount of people, but all in one location. Because it was just like everyone was there to watch one race, and that race was just continuous in a small enclosed area.
Yeah.
But there was just like people camped out in the outsides. They had like tents pitched up with like different gyms, and like you can just see the whole community vibe. People there. It was more than just like I'm going to turn up for my race.
Yeah.
It was like everyone was there for everyone else's race too.
Yeah.
So you'd spend a whole day rather than just.
Yeah. Well, in that podcast, they were talking about like in the host was just like couldn't believe how much he was just making off of spectators. And he was just like 50 mil for spectators. Like what? It's not even people not even competing. It's like well, like a lot of people want to come and watch the pros.
Yep.
Like and not even just the pros, like because they're thinking about doing a race themselves, so they kind of want to come and see what it's like and can they hang or whatever, you know, like it's interesting. But yeah, even
100%. And I remember like there were words that it was, so the spectator tickets had sold out for the Sunday, which was when the women's doubles were on.
Yeah.
So that one had sold out. But the spectator the tickets for the day had actually sold out prior to the event. So, but I was like, sure. And then there were words on the day that they weren't going to do door sales. I was like, surely not.
Yeah.
That is a moneymaker.
Yeah.
And so we just ended up rocking up anyway, and there were door sales on the day.
Oh, cool.
But I think they almost hyped it as if there weren't going to be door sales to kind of
like doing the social media play.
Yeah. But I was
create
like,
that what do you call it? That urgency.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, get in, guys, or else, there's not enough tickets for sale. Yeah.
But yeah, it was like I said, there's so many people, and the majority of that were kind of like, I guess they were both spectators and athletes. Like everyone was kind of hanging around. There was a lot of spectators there. A lot of those spectators were athletes too, or competitors. And yeah, it was a cool day.
Do you think it could be something that you would give a crack?
I would. Yeah. I didn't get to see the solo men.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen that. A few people have asked, and I would have liked to have seen that to really give it the...
Because they say it's more leg dominant. And so there were a lot of the pros that I've just stumbled across on YouTube and watched a few clips, and a lot of them do talk about how you got to be pretty much leg dominant. I was like, oh, well, there goes me.
A few more leg days.
Yeah, well, I definitely need it. I was like, maybe it could be a way to make my legs stronger. I don't know. You know, it could be the one way to look at it.
Very true. The main component is compromised running. Yeah. So the biggest or the limiting variable that you'll have, it's essentially a running race but done under fatigue. The exercises are there, and I think it kind of hides the race. So the way that it's split up is, like I said, into 8 times 1K intervals. If you look at that, technically most people are like, well, you only have to run 8K. And then you're like, well, you only actually have to do 1K at a time. But it's not quite that. You have to do 1K, yes, but while your legs are already cooked. So you have to do that K and your legs are fucked. So it's like going and running up. It's essentially doing hill repeats and then trying to hit a PB 1K in between. Yeah. Like the total amount of time on foot is going to be an hour to an hour and a half. So I always look at it, it's essentially a 15 to 20K run in terms of like the metabolic equivalent. So if you're a quick half marathoner, you're getting in around that. So the pro half marathons are coming in around an hour mark. Yeah. The pro Hyrox athletes are coming in around the hour mark. Yeah. The average Hyroxer is coming in around 130, and an average 15K is around 130. Yeah. So it's pretty much the equivalent of racing 15 to 20K, depending on how quick you are.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
For the total amount of time on foot. Whereas most people don't actually train. If they're doing Hyrox, they're not thinking about training to 15 or 20K. They're only thinking, well, I just need to be able to do probably 10 to be safe.
Yeah.
And it's like, not quite. That's why you get at the end of the race, so many people being like, I need to run more.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because a lot of those guys that I was telling you that I've come across on YouTube, they are pretty much trying to get like PB, like half marathons, you know, and they I think 1:15 or something like that was, and they do transition over to the pro Hyrox scene. And you know, it's funny that you sort of put that together, because realistically it is a lot of that running base that they need, and then that other stuff they can sort of work on in between it, right?
Correct.
Because
and I think that's why you're seeing a lot of the triathletes dominate the sport now. So probably not in the actual pros. You're seeing a lot of the pros more. It's been around for long enough so that they're kind of more like actual Hyrox athletes or hybrid athletes. They've kind of gone into that as a sport. But if you look generally, the triathletes are the ones that are kind of dominating at the moment, and that's because they have the biggest aerobic base. So they're the ones going into it who are kind of strong enough to be able to deal with the exercise component, or broad enough of a fitness spectrum to be able to deal with the fitness side component. But they've got a decent running background to be able to cover the distance and the speed that they need to cover that distance. You mentioned earlier about the CrossFitter not doing so well, and that's typically because CrossFit workouts last for about 4 minutes. So CrossFitters are very good up to about 4 minutes. And there's the odd workout that they'll go for 20, maybe 40 minutes.
I think they only ever have like one that's ever over an hour. And it's normally some like sort of half marathon with a boulder or something like that.
some kind of like chipper workout. But it's not the bulk of CrossFit. The bulk of CrossFit really is in that 2 to 4 minute range. And so you try to extrapolate that, like I said, anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half, and it doesn't quite cross over. But you'll find the people that are good aerobically, probably not so good in CrossFit, but are good aerobic CrossFitters. They've done CrossFit, but they have a decent engine. They'll cross over quite easily. So like Tia Claire Toomey.
She did one just recently, and she finished like third or something like that.
Second or third or something.
And so, Aussie's quite competitive. I think Aussie's a lot of the Aussie athletes in Hyrox are quite up there.
You'll find a lot of the. I think in the next couple of years, the Aussie athletes will start podiuming more, and that's just purely because it's starting to go off in Australia now.
And Aussies, that's actually their type of their body type and their type of work ethic. Like they're very active. They're always been more engine based than the strength sort of base of CrossFit. Their guys have always been faster and good at swimming and all of that sort of stuff like that.
Exactly. And so like you'll start to see more of it crossover, but I think at the moment the reason why triathletes tend to dominate is purely because they're the closest to what the sport is at the moment. But I think over the next coming years, the body of Hyrox will slowly start to change, and you'll get just how you had like the Rich Fronings and the Matt Frasers of the CrossFit world. You know, essentially they were CrossFit without doing CrossFit. Like Rich Froning did strength and conditioning, and he barely did CrossFit prior to winning the games. He just did a whole lot of strength and conditioning, and that crossed over into CrossFit. And then you had Matt Fraser.
He was a powerlifter, like Olympic powerlifter. And
then same thing, he kind of crossed that over. You'll end up getting the same for Hyrox. And I think you'll find the strength athletes will start to dominate once their engine catches up, because it's probably easier in that respect to gain an engine as opposed to gaining the strength. And so their strength, they won't even really need to touch their strength anymore. It will be there. But they'll just need to catch up their endurance.
It's good. It is two separate sports though, eh?
That's
what I kind of like about it, because at first I was like, man, it's just like one of the events that they have at CrossFit, and then you watch it a bit more, and then you learn a bit more about the sport, and it's just like, actually, they're two completely different fields. you couldn't have the champion of one go be the champion of the other.
No. Well, like I said, like it's a 2 to 4 minute range for CrossFit.
Yeah.
And it's an hour to an hour and a half minute range for the Hyrox.
Yeah.
So it completely different type of person.
Yeah, and I just saw the video of the CrossFit World Champ.
Oh, yeah.
The something Spiegel or whatever, the guy that the American dude.
Yep.
He went and did a Hyrox over in America, and I think it was like 1:15 or 1:10.
Yep.
So, like that's
it's about still 20 minutes off
20 minutes off the
current
record.
world record.
Yeah.
Which is a long time.
Yeah. I might be wrong on those numbers. I remember he was definitely in the like maybe 100, 105, 110, something like that. But he was happy with that because like he hasn't been training for it, so
exactly.
That's
I think they will do well. Don't get me wrong. Like the more CrossFitters, because at the moment it's basically what the bodybuilders used to do to the CrossFitters. So you've got the CrossFitters now like shitting on the Hyroxers, being like, your pussy weights, blah blah blah. It's literally what the bodybuilders and the powerlifters did to the CrossFitters back in the day. Like, what are those fucking butterfly pull-ups?
Oh, it's a vicious circle, isn't it? Yeah, the
they're just
CrossFitters
dishing
are
out
now
the shit that they got.
Whatever.
Hard.
That's all shit.
Yeah. But same thing, I think, while you had, I think a lot of people from a bodybuilding or a powerlifting or a strength background ended up doing very well in CrossFit once they developed the conditioning element.
Yeah.
I think you'll have the same over in Hyrox too, where a lot of them will actually do quite well once their engine catches up. But it's just because it's so early. Like it's been around for years based on what that podcast that he was talking.
Yeah, it's 4 years or something like that.
Yeah.
He's been running them.
Yeah. But it's relatively new in the professional space.
Yeah.
And so once you get more professional athletes kind of cross over.
Yeah, I wonder if you're going to have some dual athletes that are going to try and compete. And I wonder if it's going to help the CrossFitters with their engine for those running-based events as well. And then if they can hold on to as much strength, then they might be actually to claw extra points out of those fitness-based ones, Like it could be interesting for the CrossFit space.
CrossFit for me is always, it's too skill orientated. So so the total amount of time, I was watching James Newbury, he's an Australian CrossFitter. I
know the guy,
So he's getting into Hyrox.
Yeah, because he's always he's not been as, he's not very strong, but he's quite endurance based. I think
he's got a good engine. Yeah. So he's kind of transitioned from CrossFit. He's been to the games and everything. Yep. But he's now doing.
He ended up doing
he did it with
teams, right? He did teams. Yeah.
In CrossFit, you mean?
Pardon? No, I think he ended up competing in the teams at the CrossFit. Like I think he done maybe a couple of individual.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. He's been individual, and I think he has done a team one because there's quite a few like Australian athletes that kind of just group up and they do their thing.
Because they normally win as well. I think.
Yeah, they're very good.
They do well.
Well, like I said, Tia Clear.
Yeah.
Like she was obviously fucking dominates CrossFit, but now she's kind of dabbling in the
because she did that after her first year instead of coming back to individual, right?
Correct.
After having her child. Is she having another one coming up or something? Or
no, I think she might have. I don't know if she's had one or two.
Yeah.
She did go back to CrossFit, but she's gone. She's doing Hyrox now. I don't know if she's going to try to do both. But so what James was saying anyway was,
if there's anyone that can probably do it, it'd be that crazy.
Oh,
she is
hard.
insanely
so fit.
athletic. Yeah.
Yeah. Just across the spectrum.
Yeah.
But what he was saying is that his training is very similar. So the total amount of hours that he's spending now training for Hyrox is actually similar to what he was doing when he was ramping up for the games.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just a little bit more aerobic based now and less skill. So they're still probably training. I think he ended up saying he was doing probably 2 sessions a day, each of around 2.5 hours for the CrossFit.
Shit.
Multiply that out by 6 days, whatever that ends up being.
Yep.
Is the amount of hours that he'd probably spend. But he's saying his total training volume is very similar. But like I said, CrossFit is just so skill dependent that it's hard to cross over that. You can cross over the general engine. So I think you'd have to be good but not great at CrossFit because you'd have the fitness but without the high-end skill. And that's, like I said, like you just need, like Matt Fraser, you need that skill to be able to just hit those high-end reps, which you don't need for Hyrox.
Yeah.
So you can be generally strong, but you don't actually have to be that strong. You just have to be really fit. CrossFit's almost the other way. You need to be fit, but you don't have to have a crazy engine. You just need to be really strong under that fatigue.
Yeah. Did they tell you what if when the next time they're coming back to Auckland, or?
No, that's still up in the air.
Yeah.
So there's
was this just a try run to see if it would?
Pretty much.
Yeah. I'm guessing they went.
I would say so.
Yeah, out the park. Yeah.
I would say so. Like there's rumors of another one this year. There's rumors of one down in Christchurch.
Oh. They actually would be good.
Yeah. I thought Mystery Creek would be a good place, but maybe the Waikato River doesn't sell as much as the Sky Tower. It's not as picturesque.
Yeah, but I think it's got the space for it, right?
Well, that's what I thought.
Yeah, because it didn't. I think I just saw like one of the other coffee carts that we follow. She did a CrossFit event there, and she said it was insane. Like
the Nationals is normally
at Mystery Creek. Yeah.
Yep. So I mean, it can deal with the people because it's field days as well.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it obviously fits their model of how they set up a track, but
yeah. I think when I was listening to that podcast, they do have quite a lot of requirements, and I even think for Auckland that was sort of outside of they're running outside. I think that was one that they don't like too much.
Correct. Yeah.
Because I think they just normally run around the actual
event centre.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Inside. Yep. But I guess when you got too much people as well, because with the pros, I know they have the inside lane and they have an outside lane. Yep. Like you got to stay clear.
Where it was at ASB, you wouldn't be able to have spectators and competitors at the same time if they tried to do everything on the inside.
Yeah.
Which is why they had to run on the outside to allow the space for the spectators.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like New Zealand is such a tiny place, eh? Like for them to be like, oh well, we can't even find anywhere to have this event. Like, whereas they just have them in every bloody state in the States and all these... And even Australia now, really. Yeah, Australia, yep.
Yep, massive. But, I mean, there's nothing in stone as to when, but there is a tentative November. Like, I know the guy, or the Australian New Zealand rep kind of announced that potentially the day before the actual race, the New Zealand race, that they've got something set up there's something coming in November. They just didn't allude to what that was. So whether or not that's another New Zealand race in November, I don't know. Or whether or not they'll do like a World Championship qualification kind of thing.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
Bring the pros to the Australian.
Yeah.
So go to Australia again, but bring the pros to Australia.
Yeah.
Like as a major event. So they can have one of the top 15. So I think it's like their fastest people as a pros. You're competing to get into the top 15. So it's the top 15 fastest athletes compete
for this hemisphere or
world. For world. So any major event, you can go and do that race to get a qualification for the world champs, and you have to be in one of the quickest 15 athletes. Yep, at a major. Yeah, and currently Australasia doesn't have a major. My thing is, I'm thinking it's going to be a major. They'll make it a major event. Yeah, maybe
Melbourne or something like that.
Yeah, rather than a second New Zealand. But
that's the thing with Christchurch is it's not really got the population, whereas Auckland's got the population, so you can probably draw that spectator side of things. Or we're only an hour and a bit away from
that.
There's a few places that are like can even just travel there, whereas Christchurch, like I'm not going to watch that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's the thing. So again, I don't know if they'll do another one
that might
this
be in
year.
a couple of years or something.
Or if they'll look to do another one in New Zealand next year. They're bound to, but there is no tentative date as to when they're going to bring the next one to New Zealand. But I mean, it's a cool event. I'd 100% contemplate giving it a shot.
Go,
Yeah, definitely.
That's something I feel like I wouldn't mind paying for.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, for me, like, I do get the old, like, I'm just going to run, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and literally you can go 3 days after where that marathon is and run there for free.
And run, yeah.
Like, it's normally a path that you can just normally do your own lap.
Track.
Yeah.
Hard. But it was as soon as, I'll give it the credit because that's how I thought originally. And then as soon as I made that payment, I was just like, I was on.
Yeah.
And often it does. It was the same with bodybuilding. Like, as soon as I kind of booked in I'm committing to it. It was like, fuck, okay, train.
Maybe I have to book my triathlon or something like that.
Hard.
because I just went in to Fastlane just to have a look at the pool and the facility. So I'm umming and ahhing whether to get a gym and pool session thing or like a membership or whether to just do the swims there and then just stay at Les Mills. So still trying to decide. I don't know what to do. I think I might just go and do just pay for a swim and just see if I like the facility, or
especially just to start with.
Yeah. And then because I think you can sign up to a membership and then I think you're locked in for a year, sort of thing. Yeah, do it all. It's not too bad. It's like $24 for both of them, so it's not that bad.
So one of my clients at the moment he's doing a triathlon, and he ended up doing that. He ended up leaving Flex because he was like, "There's no I'm not going to use both. Like realistically, if I'm at Fastlane, I'm going to do it while I'm there."
Yeah.
So he just ended up getting a Fastlane membership.
Yeah. Well, I'm aiming to keep Les Mills, and then I'd have Les Mills City, and then Fastlane. I was like, okay, maybe that's a bit fucking overkill. Yeah. Reminds me of the old days of like you and Aaron.
Just a fucking membership at every gym.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to go to today, bro?
Yeah. Should we leave it at that? I think we talked about Hyrox, and I guess. Go look it up, guys, if you're interested in it. If it sounds like something you might want to work towards, it can always be a good target for you guys. And
hard. And I mean, if you guys want to, we can always go into, like, again, the different physiological parameters of that, or how to train for that, or how to even delve into nutrition for that, if people are interested. So we can either do another episode on
we'll
that.
do a part 2. Yeah. Hey, we always need topics to talk about, so I think that could be another one, maybe.
Follow on.
Yeah, maybe we'll do it in a couple of weeks or so if we're falling short on things to talk about.
Or if people really want to hear it.
Yeah, if people want to hear it, let us know for sure. Awesome. Thanks for listening, guys.
Cheers.